The truth about the Nile River, history and impact of the world's longest river. The Nile River is often celebrated as the lifeline of one of the world's oldest and most fascinating civilizations. Stretching over 4,100 miles, this legendary river flows across 11 African nations, influencing not only history but also the livelihoods of millions to this day. In this video, we'll dive into the fascinating truth about the Nile. From its ancient roots to its modern challenges, discover how this river has managed to remain relevant in humanity's story for thousands of years. Let's first locate the Nile River geographically. The Nile is the longest river on Earth, a lifeline flowing predominantly through northeastern Africa. It has two principal tributaries, the White Nile, originating in Lake Victoria, and the Blue Nile, which begins in the highlands of Ethiopia. These two rivers meet in Khartoum, Sudan, where they combine their flows to create the mighty Nile that continues northward before emptying into the Mediterranean Sea. The Nile touches numerous countries, including Egypt, Sudan, Ethiopia, Uganda, Kenya, Rwanda, and more. This diversity of nations around the Nile makes it more than just Egypt's river, showcasing its interconnected impact across the African continent. The river carves its way through a variety of landscapes, from dense forests near its sources to vast deserts further downstream. Along its course, the Nile provides arable land, drinking water, and sustenance for both people and wildlife. It's impossible to discuss the Nile without acknowledging its central role in ancient Egypt. Over 5,000 years ago, this river transformed an otherwise barren desert into one of the most advanced civilizations in human history. The Nile's annual flooding, known historically as the Gift of the Nile, was essential for agriculture. These floods deposited nutrient-rich silt on the riverbanks, allowing the ancient Egyptians to cultivate wheat, barley, and other crops. This natural cycle of fertility fueled Egypt's economy and gave birth to the first organized agricultural settlements. Beyond its practical uses, the river held a sacred place in Egyptian mythology. The Nile was associated with gods such as Hapi, the deity of floods and fertility, and it symbolized the flow of life, death, and rebirth. Egyptian temples and monuments were often constructed along the riverbanks, reflecting their reverence for the Nile. The Nile also acted as a transportation route, connecting cities and facilitating trade. Boats carrying goods like papyrus, grain, and textiles cruised up and down its waters, linking the Egyptian empire. Without the Nile, it's fair to say that ancient Egypt, home to the iconic pyramids, the Sphinx, and rich cultural heritage, might never have thrived as it did. While the Nile is most famously linked to Egypt, its influence extends much farther. The civilizations of Sudan and Nubia also benefited tremendously from the river's resources for agriculture, trade, and cultural development. In Nubia, for example, the Nile hosted vibrant trading communities that connected Central Africa to the Mediterranean world. It provided fertile land for the Meroitic kingdom and supported architectural marvels, such as pyramids built at the ancient city of Meroe. Further upstream, the river contributed to the spiritual and economic lives of Ethiopia and other nations surrounding its tributaries. Kingdoms and societies along the Nile rose and fell, but their reliance on this river has been a constant throughout history. Today, the Nile River remains a vital resource for millions of people across Northeast Africa. It irrigates farmlands, provides drinking water, and supports diverse industries, including hydropower. In modern Egypt, for instance, over 90% of the population lives along the Nile or its delta. Similar dependency can be seen in many Nile Basin countries such as Sudan and Uganda. Hydropower is one of the Nile's most notable contributions in modern times. Egypt's Aswan High Dam, completed in the 1970s, not only controls flooding but also generates electricity. More recently, Ethiopia has constructed the Grand Ethiopian Renaissance Dam, GERD, on the Blue Nile. While this project promises immense benefits for Ethiopia, including energy production and economic growth, it has sparked political tensions with downstream nations like Sudan and Egypt. Concerns about water access, equitable sharing, and environmental impacts have created ongoing disputes among the river's countries. Beyond the political significance, the Nile faces serious environmental challenges. Pollution, over-extraction of water, and climate change threaten the river's future. Rising temperatures and unpredictable rainfall patterns could disrupt its flow, affecting the millions of people who depend on it. One common misconception is that the Nile belongs solely to Egypt. While Egyptian civilization owes much of its history to the river, this perspective downplays the broader picture. The Nile is a shared resource, flowing across 11 countries, which all have their own relationships with the river. For example, the Blue Nile contributes more than half of the Nile's water, yet it originates in Ethiopia. Similarly, Uganda's Lake Victoria is the source of the White Nile. The reality is that the Nile's importance transcends borders. Countries along its basin depend on the river for drinking water, farming, and energy. Recognizing this interconnectedness is crucial for ensuring equitable and sustainable use of its waters. The Nile also harbors fascinating secrets that go beyond its historical and modern relevance. Did you know that the Nile is home to unique flora and fauna, such as the Nile crocodile and the papyrus plant? These species have adapted to thrive along its banks, creating a vibrant ecosystem. Another fun fact, the Nile is where some of the world's oldest boats were found. Ancient Egyptians developed sophisticated boat designs using papyrus reeds, allowing them to navigate its waters for trade, fishing, and ceremonies. Additionally, various cultures along the Nile celebrate its presence with unique customs and traditions. In Sudan, for instance, traditional Nile festivals mark the importance of the river in daily life. Looking ahead, the future of the Nile depends on collective action. Environmental challenges such as pollution, deforestation, and climate change must be addressed to preserve the river's flow and ecological health. At the same time, collaborative efforts among Nile Basin countries are essential to prevent disputes over water use. International negotiations have highlighted the need for fair water sharing agreements. Such partnerships can ensure the Nile continues to support both human development and economic progress in the region. The Nile's story is far from over. With proper stewardship, this ancient river can provide for future generations, just as it has nurtured past civilizations for millennia. The Nile River is much more than a body of water. It is a symbol of life, resilience, and shared heritage for millions of people. From cultivating ancient Egypt to powering modern hydropower plants, the river's impact on human history and development is immeasurable. It has fostered civilizations, connected cultures, and inspired myths, making it a true wonder of the natural world. As we look to the future, we must acknowledge the challenges that lie ahead in preserving this lifeline for Africa. The Nile reminds us of the importance of unity and sustainability, serving as a testament to the interconnectedness of people and nature. Thank you for joining us in this exploration of the Nile River's history and impact. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and let us know your thoughts in the comments below. What's your favorite fact about the Nile? Until next time.